What's up, everybody? No, I'm not one of the people on the screen over there. They are much more beautiful than me. I'm just in the corner down here, chilling. So something that people have asked me to do is kind of do an analysis slash breakdown of Artifact, and that's exactly what I plan on doing today. So I've got the Artifact PAX West video on demand from day 2 of just the showcase they did. We're playing over there on the screen. And we're going to be going through the game. I'll be explaining the game, kind of taking you through it. And then that's pretty much the situation, right? Now, this is the best footage we currently have available. I have some opinions on the game. I have some general things I want to discuss. I do have chat open as well. So, if you guys have anything you want to talk about. But, yeah, so that's pretty much it. Anyway. Let's talk about Artifact as a whole first. So it's very important to note about Artifact that it's played on 3 lanes. So you can see that we are on lane 1, lane 2, now we're on lane 3. The way this works is you take turns. I'm just going to really quickly break down how the game is actually played, right? The way this works is you take turns playing cards. So I play a card, then your opponent plays a card, then I can play a card, then the opponent can play a card, and it just kind of keeps going like that. When you don't want to play a card anymore, or when you can't play a card anymore, you can also pass the turn to your opponent. Your opponent can then play a card, or also pass. Now, if they do play a card, then the turn just passes back to you. You can then play again, or pass again, right? But if your opponent also passes, then the combat phase happens. And the combat phase is what's going on right here. So both sides will attack each other simultaneously. Very important that it happens simultaneously. It's a very, very important note here. And then depending on, HP and all of that stuff, units may kill each other. And if they do kill each other, if your side of the board kills something on the opponent's side of the board, you get gold for it. And you also get to establish stuff. Now, you may notice that there are 2 creatures here that have these item slots up here. This is what they call the item slots, right? This guy and this guy. And then this guy doesn't have these item slots. That's because this is a hero and this is a hero. Now, what are heroes? Heroes are special creatures that you build and put into your deck. We don't know too much about deck building yet because they haven't actually shown any deck building. But deck building is just kind of important, right? Of course, in all card games, very important. Artifact is a card game that comes with an interesting restriction. Because if you put a specific hero into your deck, then that hero comes with 3 cards that are dedicated to that hero. So, for example, Zeus comes with Thunder God's Wrath, which is a very powerful high mana cost spell. Now, each lane has individual HP, right? So let's play this. So you may see that this tower just took 3 damage, this tower still 40, and each lane has individual mana. So this lane has 3 out of 3 mana, this lane has 3 out of 3 mana. You start with 3, you don't start with 1, which is kind of interesting, but you start with 3 mana. What happens after a lane has been destroyed, meaning that the HP has been put to 0, after a lane has been destroyed, that lane now spawns an ancient in that lane. And you win the game by either destroying 2 lanes, like 2 basic towers, or destroying the ancient in 1 lane. You don't have to kill all 3 lanes. You don't have to kill all 3 lanes and kill all 3 ancients. No, you either kill 2 towers total or 1 ancient. So you can either kill 2 different lanes once or 1 lane twice. And that's pretty much the game. From what I've seen so far, most of the time, you win by destroying 2 towers. It's not that common that you win by killing an ancient. That doesn't happen that often. Most of the time, you win by destroying 2 towers. So that's pretty much the gist of it. Now there's some more detailed stuff. You may notice that in our hand down here, these cards are all green and this card is black. That's because the deck we're playing is a black-green deck. This game was designed by Richard Garfield, the creator of Magic the Gathering. Generally speaking, designers have a tendency to kind of try and recreate something they've done before, but better. This is not meant to be criticism. This is just how it is, right? And so Richard Garfield decided to add colors into this game as well. the way colors work here is mana is independent from colors. In Magic, you have to play green mana to play green spells. In this game, you don't, but you do have to have a green hero in a lane to cast a green spell from that lane. So right now, let's assume we had infinite mana. We would be able to play all 4 of our green spells, but we would not be able to play the black spell because we do not have a black hero on this lane. After combat is over, you have a so-called shopping round where you can go and you can buy items, right, or shopping phase. These items have different effects. Some are really powerful. You gather gold throughout the game. You can see the gold in the top right and the bottom right corner. And that's pretty much it. Now, this is where the first criticism kind of comes in. So at the end of each round, you shop, and then these creeps come into play. Heroes respawn as well. So after a hero has been killed, that card isn't gone forever, but instead the hero comes back after a few rounds, right? So it depends on what kind of hero we're talking about. Usually, heroes come back after 1 round of taking a break. So that means, you kill Zeus this round, they don't respawn the next round, but the round after that. There's some exceptions to that. The most notable one, this guy over here, I forgot his name, but he has the special ability that he comes back every single round. So he's great at defending, and also he's great at simply, putting items on him because he will always come back no matter how often he's killed. He's called Riggs, sorry. So, the first criticism people have raised at Artifact is how random it seems. And it does seem very incredibly random. Like, people like to talk shit about Hearthstone because of its RNG. Honestly, this game, to me, from what I've seen so far, has at least as much RNG as Hearthstone. But I do want to also make clear that I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. I don't really even think Hearthstone's RNG is that big of a deal. This game's RNG is kind of countered by the fact that there's a lot of decision making people do throughout the game. And that decision making kind of like in long term should outweigh your RNG. Alright? So that's kind of the idea there. Isn't that also just a side effect of TCGs or CCGs? Well, to a certain extent. So every trading card game or every card game where you draw cards from a deck has some RNG in it because you shuffle a deck and then draw cards from it randomly, right? Like, that is inherent RNG. This game has that, but it also has additional RNG. So let me lay out the additional RNG. After every round, or before every new round, creeps are placed into lanes. These lanes are randomly decided. Both players get 2 creeps, but where the creeps go is completely random. The players don't have any impact on that whatsoever. Secondly, after you choose where your heroes are going to respawn. So you may notice that we have this lady right here. I think she's called Debbie. I think she actually has a different name, but they keep calling her Debbie on the stream. But Debbie is a hero that's respawning for our, I guess, Radiant dude. Right, let's just call him Radiant and Dire. So bottom is Radiant, top is Dire. For the Radiant, the Debbie is respawning. So now you get to choose which lane Debbie goes into. And the thing is, you don't get to choose which position Debbie goes into. That's something you don't have any control over. You will see that is very important. So, we'll see right here that the challenger, which by the way, I think the way this works is that the challengers get to, so the challenger puts Debbie into the left lane, right? And you may notice the challenger didn't make a decision whether or not Debbie goes here or here. That's just where she ended up. They also could have been on this other side, and that does make a difference. Another thing you may notice is that these little creeps right now are laying out these arrows, right? And what these arrows indicate, it's very tricky to see because it's so fast. Let's go back really quick. This is also very difficult because it's so small. The arrows indicate the direction into which the creeps will attack. So pay attention to the arrows, all right? Like, so up here you can see that Zeus was laid out this way, and these 2 attack upwards, right? And then we are going to have the arrows here, but you can see this arrow was pointing this way, this arrow points this way, and this arrow points this way. What could also have happened is that this arrow points this way, so she attacks Bristleback, and then Bristlebacks could have still pointed straight, meaning that Bristleback is now not fighting back, but instead only gets attacked. This, again, is also entirely RNG.
10 months baby smiley face. Do you know if you're getting an artifact beta key?
Hey, Tank Bozy, I already got mine, already all lined up. Don't worry about it. Like, I'm starting to play this game as soon as I can. I'm gonna start streaming it, like, the minute I can. But that's kind of how it works, right? So this is also entirely RNG. Right, entirely RNG. You don't have any control over where these arrows go, and this can be game deciding. I want to make that clear. And then over here, of course, right, the creeps also get put down. Again, there was no guarantee that this creep goes over here. This creep could have ended up over here, which could have then ended up fighting this ogre, which could have ended up blocking 6 damage to the tower and getting some damage in on the ogre, which could have been bad, could have been good, right? You don't really know. And that's something that's really important to keep in mind about Artifact. Artifact as a game is really, it's very heavy on the RNG, right? Like, there's a lot of RNG in this. There's a card called Blink Dagger, which you can apply to a hero, and then that hero can use that effect to go into a different lane. And by going into that different lane, you can kind of reposition them, which is very powerful. But this is the tricky part. You can't determine which position in the lane the hero goes into. So there was actually a clip at PAX, I think day 1, where Slacks literally lost the game because of it. There was nothing he could do. Anyway, so you can see that the Radiant now has 4 mana. Right here, you can see how the combat will turn out. So the game already shows you this. You can see the arrows up here indicate which unit is going to attack which other unit. So this Lycan will just kill the Luna as it looks right now. Right, and Debbie will go to the tower and do a lot of extra damage here. But now both players actually have some mana to make some turns with. The Dire side has Ventriloquy and Tower Barrage that they can play, and the Radiant could play No Accident or the Savage Wolves. And we'll see how that plays out. Right, so also the Radiant side currently has Initiative, which is whoever goes first. It's another turn taken from D&D. I don't know. Richard Garfield seems to really like D&D, which I think is good. I like D&D. D&D is great. Anyway, so we're just going to play a Savage Wolf on our side, it seems. Lycan has an ability where he buffs units around him. Tower Barrage comes out. Zeus has an ability where every time a spell is cast, he does bonus damage to all enemies in the lane. Right, just like in Dota, very similar to it. You can see again. Well, actually, let me go back on that really quick. Zeus doesn't do damage on every enemy in lane, but on to so-called enemy neighbors. What is an enemy neighbor? An enemy neighbor is this position, and this position. So they're like 3 positions ahead of Zeus, the 3 positions he could potentially be attacking. Those are enemy neighbors. So whenever you cast a spell, or is it just blue spells? I'm not entirely sure. I don't have the cards in front of me. But whenever you cast something, Zeus will trigger his passive and do 1 damage to all enemy neighbors, which has now resulted in this Lycan dropping down in HP. And also it seems that his attack direction has changed. So let's actually take another look at how that plays out. And ideally, I would actually like to slow it down once we get to that. Right, so we can kind of like take a little bit of a closer look, right? So you're gonna have to pay attention to every single detail here because this shit is rough. All right, so Debbie is gonna be placed in a lane. Then we have the turn passed. You can see that all of the arrows are laid out and all of that stuff, right? Lycan is currently still attacking into the Luna, and now we're gonna go ahead and slow this down a little bit. So at the start of your turn, you draw 2 cards, by the way, not just 1. A little bit weird. It's something that Richard Garfield seems to like, is that players run out of card advantage. You know, like in Hearthstone, you generally try to play only a single card a turn, and you draw a card a turn, and that's like pretty reasonable. You can usually do that. In Magic, you're usually forced to play 2 cards a turn, because you have to play mana and a card. And in this game, you know, like, kind of theoretically, you want to say, okay, well, you know, there's 3 lanes, you want to play a card in each lane, so you're slowly going to be burning yourself out of cards. This is something that Richard Garfield seems to like. Anyway, we've got ourselves the slow motion. So our player decides to just play the wolf right here, right? So the Savage Wolf comes out. That's just a summon for 4 mana. That's the end of our turn. It's cool. It's placed next to the Lycan. The Tower Barrage comes out, so that does 2 damage, and you can see the Zeus triggers and does damage here and does damage here. And then he has, the blue side has the spell Ventriloquy. What that does is it taunts with 1 unit, meaning that he's probably going to cast it on the Zeus right here after our player passes. We don't have any turn, right? Radiant passes, we don't have any mana, we can't do anything. Ventriloquy is cast, chooses a unit to taunt. So now Zeus is taunting, which makes the Lycan attack him. What I'm not entirely sure about is why Debbie isn't attacking him. It seems like Debbie should be attacking him. It might be because because the creep that was in the position where Debbie now was taunted, but then immediately killed by Zeus's passive ability, and so Debbie isn't taunted. I guess. I suppose that's how it works. Anyway, due to that change and due to the abilities played, now Zeus manages to kill Lycan, which is a nice turnaround for the dire side. So we're going into the middle lane now, right? Lane 2. In lane 2, we really only have 1 play. We have no accident. We can't afford any of the other cards. The Bristleback is significantly stronger than our Phantom Assassin, but the thing is, we have Coup de Grace, which is a spell that will just kill something. So hopefully, like in 2 turns, we'll be able to use that. I think the priority there should be to keep the Phantom Assassin alive. And we're going into the 3rd lane. So we've got Ogre currently crashing into our tower. Our tower has 40 HP, and this is something that's really important about card games in general. But your life pool is a resource, okay? Something that like new card game players will do is they will defend their life pool with every single bit that they can, right? Like as much as possible. But really, it's not a good strategy, right? It's not a good strategy. You want to heal. Okay, so the ideal life pool is 1. Right? Like if you win with 1 life, you won. It doesn't matter how much HP you have at the end of the game. So cards always attack forward if there is an enemy, don't they? No, they don't actually. Cards don't always attack forward if there is an enemy. Anyway, so we'll probably see this right here. We'll probably see this right here. Earthshaker is going to be placed in the top left lane. This, by the way, I assume you don't actually see. This is currently a spectator version of the game where we can see both hands and such. I assume we as the Radiant wouldn't see where the Earthshaker goes. But the Earthshaker is actually going to be placed in the top right now. The Chen also moving over to the right. Well, that's kind of interesting. Anyway. So yeah, now the arrows are laid out. And it seems like the Phantom Assassin is going straight. So you can see that this over here actually kind of like that makes a difference, right? Or the Phantom Assassin. If the Phantom Assassin was attacking into the Zeus, not the Phantom Assassin, Debbie. If Debbie was attacking into the Zeus would be dead, right? The Zeus would just be dead. That would be a big moment. That would be really nice for the Radiant. But Debbie isn't attacking into the Zeus, Debbie is attacking forward because these arrows are random. There's no way to predict them, there's nothing you can really do. But the Wolf is attacking into the Luna, and the Luna is attacking into the Wolf. Which, actually, I think ends up really well for the Radiant. Because the Wolf actually does 4 damage, and Luna only has 4 HP. So, the RNG here really worked out in our favor, because the Wolf is only worth 1 gold if it gets killed. A creep, which is what the Wolf is worth 1 gold. A hero is worth 5 gold. So the RNG definitely worked out in our favor in that regard. Now the question is, can the Dire in some sort of way turn this around? So, we have no accident. This is a spell that does some damage. I think at this point we can kind of speed this up a little bit because we're really playing this very slowly. So deal 3 damage to a unit. That's going to snipe out the Zeus. So that's awesome. That leaves only the Luna on the board. But we have Potion of Knowledge. That's a card we bought from the shop, right? 5 gold for that. And we've got a Traveler's Cloak that's going to buff up our Luna and keep her in play. It's important that the Luna stays in play because the Luna has an ability or has a special card called Eclipse, which is her ultimate, of course. If you play Dota, you obviously recognize that. But what Eclipse does is it does more damage the more turns Luna has been in play, right? The longer Luna is just on the board, the more powerful Eclipse becomes. Anyway, so we've got another situation right here. So let's actually explain this one. How do I jump back like 10 seconds on YouTube? Is there like a button for it? Yeah, there is. Look at that. All right, cool. So this right here is the Redness Pillager. The Redness Pillager is a 5 mana 4/2, which is really bad. Like, that's terrible. But what the Redness Pillager does is after it does damage to a tower, there's another Redness Pillager that spawns. And then after another Redness Pillager spawns, like after, those two then do tower damage, you have 4. And after those do that tower damage, you have 8. And it just, in theory, gets exponentially better like that. Generally speaking, in most card games, effects like this have been very weak. From what I've seen so far, this is also not very good. The only way to really make these kind of effects work is if you can like protect them very well, or you can charge them and rush them. But I don't know. The only really like super strong version of this that I can think of was in Hearthstone, which was Grim Patron Warrior. Grim Patron was very powerful, but also Grim Patron mostly worked because of other cards. It wasn't the fact that you could replicate units that were crazy. Also didn't replicate on attack. Anyway, Redness Pillager is going to come into play. Now, this is what's important. We don't know yet where the Redness Pillager is going to attack, right? Because there's no arrows laid out in front of units that aren't played. And I don't know if this is different from a playing perspective. Maybe it shows you where the unit is going to attack into. I haven't seen that yet. From what I can tell, we don't know where it's going to attack. And if we play the video, we're going to play the Redness Pillager, and then a card flips over and shows us where the Redness Pillager will attack. So from what I can tell, it seems like the game doesn't actually tell you ahead of time. Which you may notice, if the Redness Pillager had attacked into that Phantom Assassin, the Phantom Assassin would be dead. Right? Like, that's again, like, that would be a very significant moment in the game where there's just a random chance of us killing the Phantom Assassin. Now, these arrows are random. There's a 50% chance to go straight and 25% to go into either direction. So, Redness Pillager could actually just 25% chance kill that Phantom Assassin. Phantom Assassin is not fighting back. She's not going to the top right. So she would have just died, right? And that would have been really, really, really good for the Dire player. That didn't end up happening, but oh well. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. Anyway, Redness Pillager goes down. We can't really do anything. Combat happens, and another Redness Pillager spawns. So you can see this one spawns in front of the Phantom Assassin, and it shows that actually the Phantom Assassin will now die to this Redness Pillager. Bristol Back is just kind of pounding into the tower, which is good. And then we go into lane 3. Lane 3, well, we've got a bunch of heroes here. So this is a good lane because we have a lot of green cards in hand right now. So that will probably work out for us really well. Now, you may notice something over here. Chen has a number here, the 2. Because Chen has an ability as Holy Persuasion, which lets you dominate a creep. You can just steal a creep from your opponent, but it has a 4-round cooldown, and I think when you play it first, I think the game starts with all of the abilities on cooldown. So you can't quite use it yet, but it is very powerful when you get to use it. Anyway, we've got 5 mana, so we could play Truth to Power if we want to. We could play the Savage Wolf to kind of like block some more damage. Again, we still got more damage coming into the tower, but it's not necessarily a terrible situation for us. All right. It's kind of fine. So we're going to both pass and then take some damage. So we've got 10 gold here. Right, so we could buy any of these items, the Keen Folk Blade, the Traveler's Cloak, the Potion of Knowledge. We're going to go ahead and get the Keen Folk Blade. So that's a good solid item that will help. And now we get to respawn Lycan. Remember, Lycan died 2 turns ago. So now we get to play him again. We're going to put him into the first lane. Keep in mind, we can only cast green spells in a lane where there's actually a green hero. And we have largely green spells in hand. So mid lane is not going to be able to do anything else. Luna is still looking really good. We got coup de grace here. So we could try to assassinate something maybe, but we don't have initiative. The other guy does, right? So the question now is what happens, right? Especially if you are the Dire side here, you have to be aware of the fact that it is... Oh, there we go. You can see it now taunted. All units towards it, blocking a lot of damage. And this is actually really important. So after tower dies, you can't do any more damage to it that turn. You need to wait until next turn to start damaging the Ancient. So keeping a tower at low HP is actually really valuable, because then you can just stall a turn and waste a lot of damage. So I think actually using the Ventriloquism here to stop the damage from destroying the tower at this point is a really good idea because you're just sacrificing one creep and one card. Like, it's totally fine, and you will be able to stall at least an additional turn with it. That is very valuable. Especially for blue. Blue tends to be more of the control, the more the slow deck. Luna is still alive, so that's good. Something you have to be really aware of as the die at this point is, since you're playing against black, black has a card called Coup de Grace. And Coup de Grace just kills a guy. Right? It's very powerful. Our dude is not going to play it here. It's interesting. No, I'm a bit surprised by that, honestly. But we're going to TP scroll our Luna back to the fountain. And what was that? Please play another card. Slacks, that was so bad. That was so garbage. Oh my god. Oh, soups. Slacks, please. Alright. So what happened there? I just explained the taunting thing, which is great, right? That makes sense. So what Slacks does is I guess actually, you know what? Never mind. No, actually it's fine. I'm sorry, I take that back. So the wolf was played on the right side. The wolf does 5 damage, which kills the tower anyway. So I think Slacks just wanted to save the Luna. Now, Town Portal Scroll is actually, from what I've heard, one of the most powerful cards in the game. What the Town Portal Scroll does is it gets a hero out of a lane. Now, unlike when they are killed, you can just replay them next turn, which is really good. So you can reposition the Luna. And he tried to protect his lane, but I don't think he has any other cards he can play here, right? He has another Ventriloquy, which will taunt, but he has no unit over to the side where the wolf is, so he cannot taunt. He cannot protect that, and kind of there goes that. Now, I believe the Radiant side actually has no control over where that wolf spawns. And we saw earlier that the wolves can also spawn on the left side. So I think there's actually a chance that if the wolf had just spawned on the left side, that Slacks could have played Ventriloquy to make it so the wolf attacks into the Luna as well. Have the Luna die, protect the lane for another turn, which would have been really nice. But again, like, this is another like small RNG thing. Anyway, let's go and continue on. So the TP out for the Luna. It's a smart call. Like, I actually do think that's smart. I take back what I just said, because the tower is going to die either way, and this way you at least protect your Luna. And that's really what matters, right? Just keep the Luna alive. Anyway, we go into lane 2. So here we've got Coup de Grace, and I would be very surprised if we don't see that used. Okay, no Coup de Grace yet. So if Slacks wants to, he can actually just pass into combat, but he's not going to do that. Vicious Nasal Ghoul modifies the... Wait. I'm sorry. The interface for this can be a little bit difficult at times. So it wasn't actually a pass. The Keenfolk blade was played on the Phantom Assassin. It just didn't really show properly, but you can see. So the Phantom Assassin just got 2 armor. What does armor do? For each point of armor, you take 1 point less damage. So it should actually be called damage block. Like, if you want to stay true to Dota mechanics, that's actually damage block. It's not armor. But oh well. So that's going to block 2 points of damage, right? And that makes it so that Phantom Assassin actually survives this turn, which, as we've mentioned before, that's always very important. Also doesn't use mana. Important thing about equipment, it doesn't use mana. Vicious Nasal Ghoul comes out from the Bristleback, modifies a unit of -2. So that, of course, means that the... Oh, there we go. That's Coup de Grace, right? Discard a random card, condemn a hero. So you discard a card and then you just kill a guy. Which is incredible, like such a powerful effect. Just straight up kills the Bristleback. And with that, the lane does end up losing the Phantom Assassin as well, but at least the Bristleback is gone. Mid lane is still looking a little bit troublesome for the Radiant player though, by the way. Because there's actually 2 more of those Redness Pillagers there, which will continue duplicating, right? So if next turn he doesn't do anything about it, those Redness Pillagers will actually just like kill him. Because then there's 4, and at 4 it starts being really difficult. But it's also important to keep in mind that there could just be 2 creeps that spawn in the mid lane. Alright, so there we go. We've got the creep. Gonna go ahead and taunt up, attacks the, what's his face, the Chen. Chen is being attacked by Earthshaker right now. Fighting Instinct, modify red hero of +1 attack and +1 armor. So armor is really valuable, by the way. It's super good against creeps mostly. Like, it just blocks a lot of damage. Anyway, we've got 11 gold on the Radiant side. So Radiant also has a card called Payday, which is a 3-mana black spell that doubles how much gold you have. Which is something you should really consider here. Anyway, Radiant, I don't think has any heroes. They are respawning next turn. So that is really bad. Oh god. No creeps spawned in the mid lane either, so that's also incredibly unfortunate. And yes, mid lane, there's actually nothing the Radiant can do in the mid lane. When I say there's nothing they can do, I mean there's literally nothing they can do. Anyway, lane 1. So we've got Truth to Power, W gold, where I can do a whole lot of stuff, can do a lot of damage here. Not sure if it is necessarily a great play at this juncture, but you could. If you like, the thing is, in this lane, there's actually really nothing Slacks can do, and you're already pushing for 37. So next turn, you just need to like put like the Thunderhide pack into play, which is a 14/14. Right, so there's really no real reason to do anything. And now the mid lane is the exact same situation, just from the other side. There's actually nothing our challenger can do. He's got no plays whatsoever. I think the challenger did actually do something. There's only 4 mana in the first lane. Again, it's a little bit difficult to see at times. But the tower goes down. And is that game over? No, it's not game over. But there's 4 Redness Pillagers now. Right, so it's just looking really rough. Now we've got Earthshaker using his Fissure, which stuns 2 heroes. So I think that stops them from attacking or something. I'm not entirely sure. It's kind of hard to see because it's so small right now. Can you make it bigger, dude? Echo Slam comes out. Echo Slam is super good. What Echo Slam does is it does 1 point of damage to all enemies for each enemy. Right, so if the enemy has 7 units, then it will do 7 damage to all of them. It's crazy good. Anyway, so that tower only has 3 HP left. We've got 14 gold on our challenger. He didn't actually use his Payday, so I don't know what the fuck he was saving for. I don't know what you're saving now. This just doesn't make sense to me. Alright, puts everything into the top lane. So that's the idea now, right? Like, the thing is, you're not gonna be able to win the mid or the bottom. It's just not gonna happen. But top lane, you're in complete control, and it seems that the game placed the bristleback in front of a creep. Right, so if the game had placed the bristleback in front of, like, Debbie, that would actually have been maybe enough to prevent this. I'm not entirely sure. I think it may still not have been enough. This lane is just really, really dead. There is, however, no, there's no blue hero here. If Slacks had a blue hero here, he would have been able to Echo Slam, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much game. That is pretty much game. So coup de grace comes out. It's just going to execute that away. This is why initiative is also really important, right? So, of course, with cards like coup de grace, which just kill a guy, super important to have initiative, because if your opponent only has one hero on the lane, you coup de grace that one hero, and now they can't cast anything anymore. All right, and that's the game. Game is now over. Radiant side wins the match because they've managed to destroy the Dire Ancient. So, I think this game is very much, obviously, still in beta, right? I think it's very clear, you can very much tell. But let's go ahead and watch one more game. Let's maybe skip in a little bit so we don't watch Slacks play again. Who do we want to make fun of? Sansun? Let's make fun of Lumi. I like Lumi. Let's make fun of him. No, Lumi, from what I've seen, is actually not that terrible at this game. Alright, let's skip ahead. So, there we are. We're on turn 1. So, something you may notice is that quite frequently, turn 1 is literally just passing. Right? And this is something that I think is actually a little bit problematic with the game. Right? I want to use this game to kind of explain some stuff and also to raise some criticism. So, something I think is a little bit problematic with the game is that turn 1 is a lot of passing. Like, it just seems like it with the decks they're showing us. And, okay, actually, before I get into this, let me bring up something else really quick. Okay, just really, really quick. There are, so I believe the decks they're showing us here at PAX are starter decks. Now, if you've ever played a card game before, you know starter decks are the dumbest fucking shit. Like, they're just always so terrible. Every single... I don't know if anybody knows anything about Pokemon, about the Pokemon trading card game. Right? But the Pokemon trading card game, the last time I kept up with it, was all about, like super high-powered Pokemon EXs. And the Pokemon EX usually has like 180 HP and does like 200 damage in attack. They're like super scary, right? Okay, they don't do 200 damage in attack, but they're really powerful. And the Pokemon starter decks, not only do they never include any Pokemon EX, at least, again, like 3 years ago, which was last time I was up to date with that. Maybe they've changed it now. They never included any Pokemon EXs. But they also, had shit like unfinished evolution lines, right? They would have a deck that just has like Squirtle and Wartortle, but no Blastoise. They're just like, why would you bother? Nobody plays Squirtle and Wartortle just because. They want to have Blastoise. That's why you play the evolution line, right? You do not play just Squirtle and Wartortle and then no Blastoise. Like, they're all so incredibly terrible, right? If you look at Hearthstone, the starter decks there are, they just, I'm just saying that it's not that unusual for them to contain Silverback Patriarch, which is a card that has been power crept 100 million times and is quite possibly the worst card in the game. In Yu-Gi-Oh! It's the same thing, right? Like, in Magic, it's the same thing. Starter decks always suck. Now, why do they suck? Why are they always terrible? It's because they are kind of meant to get players into the game with a very basic version of the game and not provide them with any valuable cards while doing it, so they then go and buy boosters and, spend more money on the game. Alright, that's the idea. Like a simple starting deck so you can kind of like get into it and then you buy boosters for more and better cards. I believe what we've got here are starting decks, or at least something that is only mildly better than starting decks, as in these decks are garbage. I'm not saying that that's because the developers are bad, I'm just saying that that's what it is. In fact, I think it's got nothing to do with how good the developers are. This is entirely intentional that the decks are complete fucking garbage. But they are just complete fucking garbage, is my assumption. Because something that happens a lot, and now we go back to my original point, is that you don't do anything on turn 1. And if you don't do anything on turn 1, turn 1 is more often than not just straight up decided by, like positioning, which is random. Right, anyway, so we've got, right here, you see this was random. It's the Bristleback against the Sorla Khan. I don't forget her name. Yeah, I really hope they have better names eventually because I'm really bad at fucking naming shit. Anyway, so they play a minion right there. Bristleback just straight up kills that nerd though. Right, so that's good. Then we've got lane 3 here. We've got the Lucent Beam coming out doing a little bit of damage. And again, I don't think our Radiant player did anything this turn other than pass. Right, there's just nothing they can actually do. The Dire side had a little bit of a better starting hand, so they had a few more options available. And yeah, there we go. So hero deployment comes out. So there's Zeus. We get to play as Zeus. By the way, you can see who respawns and when at the top left corner. Right, top left corner of the screen. There's that little window which tells you about HP and who's got initiative and all of that stuff. Honestly, I don't think that interface is at all pretty. I think it looks kind of garbage. Overall, this game can definitely still use a lot of work. I think it looks really good for what it is, but it can still definitely use a lot of work. Anyway, so the Zeus spawned right in front of the Bristleback, which is terrible. Oh god, that is so bad for the Dire. Like, they gotta deal with that. They have to deal with that. Anyway, the Ogre is just gonna go ahead and kill that one hero there, the blue one. There's really not much the Ogre needs to do. So this is really the kind of situation where as the Radiant, you can just pass. Right? You are in a winning position. You're gonna take some tower damage, but you're gonna get that hero kill, which is much more important. the dire side are the ones that have to actually play cards and prevent this from happening, or if they just pass, then you're just perfectly happy with that as the Radiant. So the dire side is going to play better late than never to summon a creep into another lane. Now this is really important. You can actually manipulate the other lanes. Why would you do that? Alright, so we're going to have the Vicious Nasal Goo coming out. Now this is a modification. A modification is something you can cast on a hero. Or I think you can also cast on a regular unit, but you always want to cast it on a hero. Because it is permanent. Like, that's really important. So that hero that just got -2 armor has -2 armor for the rest of the game. And that means it takes 2 more damage from any source. Or from combat sources. Sorry, not from any source. Not from spells. But yeah, so the Bristleback is going to be tanked up by gaining that item. So that's nice. Then we just pass the turn. This is the Disciple of Nevermore. This has an ability that buffs up all of your units, gives them additional damage, but reduces their armor. And the question now is, can the dire side really do anything here? They do need to deal 3 damage to the Bristleback if they want to kill it, which is rough. 3 damage to a Bristleback, but we're going to choose a unit and choose a combat target for it. So the Bristleback is now going to be diverted away from the Zeus and going to be attacking into the Disciple of Nevermore instead. So the idea there is just to protect the Zeus and then set up a situation where you have the Zeus going up against the Bristleback. You want to make plays like that mostly just to protect your spellcasters, right? You need to have heroes on the lane to cast spells. This is so important. I know I've said it so many times, but it is so important. You need to have heroes on the lane to cast spells. So, again, we've got like a pretty straightforward battle here, just everybody clashing into each other. I think Satsa may have actually been right about the fact that if a unit is in front of another unit, they will always attack each other. Again, I don't really have an official rule set here. I'm just going off of what I have seen. But yeah, combat just happens. Nobody plays any cards. It's still very early in the game. We're going to go ahead and drop, buy a bunch of stuff from the shop. So that's a lot of money for our Radiant player here. And now we're going to see an Earthshaker come into play. So Earthshaker is generally somebody you want to protect because he's got that very powerful active ability, but you need to have him actually stay alive to be able to use it. So we're going to throw down the Earthshaker into the mid lane, it seems, which is a good choice. The Bristleback and the Zeus are already fighting each other. So, they're kind of going to kill each other. Or, well, I guess the Bristleback will actually kill the Zeus. Onus there is definitely on the dire side to do something, and so you can kind of just put the Earthshaker there to try and protect that. Turns out didn't work out at all. Dire side put 2 heroes into the mid lane, and one of them is actually attacking the Bristleback, which again, that is RNG, right? So we've got the Redness Pillagers coming out. It's going to be charging down the mid here. Of course, we know that can be a little bit problematic if those build up too much. Again, I don't expect them to be a card that will be competitively viable because they just got 2 little HP, but they might be. They might eventually become competitively viable. I don't know. It's hard to know without the full set. But in this context, in this, in this subset of games with these specific decks, it seems pretty powerful. Anyway, so we've got Crystal Main fighting into the Earthshaker, and you see here the RNG made this unit attack the Earthshaker. So let's talk a little bit about the RNG while I just kind of let this play. So I am actually somebody, I don't mind RNG. I think RNG makes games more interesting. I do think there's value to having a limited amount of RNG. It doesn't need to be all the time. It doesn't need to be in every game. But more often than not, just having a little bit of RNG does make things a bit more interesting. But RNG should never feel like it's in control. RNG should always feel like it's something you can manipulate, something you can manage, something you can be in charge of. And I feel like at points of Artifact, that's not necessarily the case. Now, I have seen people say that they want to remove stuff like where the creep spawn is random, which way the hero's attack is random. They remove all of that stuff. I personally don't actually think we need that. What I think, the only factor of RNG that I personally feel should be removed is that it's random in what position in the lane your heroes spawn. I don't think it would be a huge deal to give the players control over that. It wouldn't take a lot away from the gameplay flow of the game, which is always the problem, right? Artifact is a game that actually has a lot of rules. This is not a game that would function in any sort of way as a physical card game. It's not meant for that. But I feel like if you just let people control this one aspect, it wouldn't slow down the game too much, and it would just kind of feel a little bit more like you are actually in charge of your decisions here. So, there was something cast. Yeah, this spectator interface really isn't perfect. Anyway, so Conflagration was cast. This is a so-called improvement. You can cast this on a lane, and then whatever that improvement is just happens. So Conflagration, I think it does 2 damage to each enemy at the start of the lane. At the start of the turn, right? Or of the lane's turn. So it's really powerful, just kind of like works down the enemies. And if you cast 2 of them, I don't know if you can, but if you can, then it will one-shot all creeps, which is, of course, very, very strong. Anyway, Necrophos and the other guy gonna be placed in the top lane. And Luna placed in the center here, as well as the 2 creeps going to the right. So nothing too crazy here. Another thing I'm not entirely sure of is that I like that units have this like random, attack patterns. I feel like they don't need to be random. I feel like they could have rules instead. Right? Just simple rules. As in, units will always attack straight, unless they are told otherwise by some sort of card effect. And if there's nothing in front of them, but they have an enemy neighbor, right, then they will attack the enemy neighbor instead. And if that's not the case, they will attack the tower. You could have a simple set of rules like that instead of making it completely random like it is right now. But I don't know. Maybe it's better that way. I'm sure they have tested simple rule sets like that. What does the red X on cards mean? The red X, that's your weapon slot. Yeah, I assume this is what you mean. Alright, this is your weapon slot. So every hero can like buy items, or like you can buy items and then equip your heroes with a weapon. So, yeah. Anyway, this is the Ogre's hero-specific card, by the way. Anyway, you can see the improvement coming out there. It's actually going to snipe out the Crystal Maiden, which is good. Like, that's powerful. That tower is taking a lot of damage, but it's not quite dying yet. So actually, right now, Luminous has no real reason to play anything in this lane. Alright, it seems like a hero is going to survive. He's going to still have a blue hero in this lane. Oh, you mean a huge X overcard? Oh, that means it's going to die in combat. Right? That means that they're going to die in combat. Anyway. So, we've got boots coming out. That's going to buff up a unit. We've got some health potions and all of that stuff. Like, I don't know why it's so small right now. By the way, this right here is Eclipse. So, you can see Eclipse, very powerful. And Eclipse has, Eclipse has RNG that says, attack, like, do 3 damage to X enemies at random. Right? And I think that's fine. Right? Sometimes Eclipse will just snipe out all of the heroes, and other times Eclipse won't. You want to use Eclipse exactly like you want to use it in Dota, where you want to be careful who you place it on. Wow, that was a big shopping phase. You want to be careful who you place it on. You want to be careful, like, you don't want to use it in a lane where there's a lot of creeps. You want to use it in a lane where there's only the targets you want to hit. Right? So that's the kind of RNG I personally think is really nice and cool, and I don't mind it. But yeah, like the biggest thing to me really, if there's one thing I could change about the game, it's just changing that you can actively place where the heroes go. But as I mentioned, this game has a lot of rules, and so I think they're just scared of slowing down the gameplay flow, because it is a very complex game. It's not complex in the sense of it's difficult to understand, but it's just there's a lot going on. And that makes it so that you don't really want to like give players control over every single thing. If you've played Magic the Gathering on any sort of like digital platform before, I'm sure you know that, it takes forever to wait until your opponent has played the instant, like if your opponent holds an instant, then they have to confirm after every single slot, like every single thing you do, because they might just want to play it. And that's just kind of dumb. Like, you wouldn't want to like, it works for a physical card game. I'm not saying that those cards shouldn't exist in Magic. I'm just saying it doesn't work for a digital card game as well. And I think they're trying to avoid having something like that. Anyway, the Luna passive Lucent Beam proc, just going to completely melt that. And they're going to use Thunder God's Wrath, which is like a global sniping effect. It's probably the fanciest animation in the game right now. And everybody freaked out when they saw that. I personally got to say, I don't even like it that much. I don't think it looks that pretty. Anyway. So they're going to go ahead and just kind of do some damage here. So that tower's looking really low. Top lane is in pretty good shape, I would say. Luminous just equipped all of his stuff on the hero on the second lane to really try and push that lane down. But Stonehold Blade is going to modify that Zeus, but there's another Thunder God's Wrath, and it seems just going to snipe him out. Yep, there he goes. It's also going to do a little bit of extra damage to the creep. The creeps go down, so there's no hero in any of the lanes right now. Yeah, that's rough. That is really fucking rough. Alright, how many are respawning? 4? No, I think... I'm not sure how many are respawning for... Dire. No, it's just 1. Yeah, this game is over. Alright, this game is over. There's only 1 hero respawning for the Dire. You can only defend 1 lane. Oh no, there's another one. Okay, sorry. Oh, there's another one! Hey, so it was actually free. Oh, man. Yeah, the spectating interface isn't perfect yet by any means. Yeah, I don't blame him for that. There's another one! Holy shit, that's a lot of heroes. Alright, 4 heroes respawning. Actually, my first guess was right. That's funny. Alright, never mind. The game is not quite over yet. The game is not quite over yet. Especially since we have a whole bunch of Thunder God's Wrath we can use from the Radiant. So I imagine at this point you just spam it, right? Like, yeah, there's one. Try to deal damage to all of these heroes. It does 4 damage to every hero on every lane. It's very powerful. This guy, by the way, I think is amazing. Wow. So this is a card that I think is super unimpressive. And I think it's one of the best cards in the game, from what I can tell so far. It's got an active. Every 4 turns, you can just draw a card, which is God tier. And then its spell that it gets is a 1 mana swap the position of 2 units in lane. Right? So the technology exists. Yeah. No, wait, sorry. Choose a unit, choose a new combat target for it. Yeah, sorry. Different spell. But that spell is still incredible. Right? It is so good. You can redirect combat targets. It's amazing. Amazing ability. I think that guy is actually one of the best heroes in the game, from what I can tell. Anyway, that was a lot of stuff just coming out right there. Earthshaker, gonna fish at them as well. Do we Thunder God's Wrath? I think you Thunder God's Wrath, my dude. You've got a blue guy in lane, dude. That's gonna kill the Earthshaker. That's a good kill. Definitely want to do that. And that's again where initiative is really important. Alright, initiative is super, super important. Oh, you didn't play it! Right, so now he can't because the Crystal Maiden is dead. Right, if he had played the Thunder God's Wrath, it would have killed the Earthshaker. And if he had actually been able to play the Thunder God's Wrath before the Earthshaker used his fish, his units wouldn't have gotten stunned. Which again, initiative. So important. I actually, it may have been a mistake from Numi to not use the Thunder God's Wrath before the Fisher. Although I'm not sure if Fisher does damage. Anyway, we've got the Steam Cannon coming out here. So this is another improvement, which is something you can just activate to blast for damage at something, which is apparently very, very powerful. But instead, we're summoning a dude. So from what I have heard, from what I understand, the black color is supposed to be all about dealing damage to towers. And the red tower is more about the early game fighting, brawling class. Blue is controlled and green is getting big buff. Green dudes, just ramping mana and playing big dudes right away. Which is just come on, dude. Really, blue is control and green is ramp? Just call it magic, dude. Just call it magic. Anyway, you may notice that our Radiant side can no longer buy an item from the middle of the shop. That's because that's the item deck I think you bring 9 items from into combat that you manually choose. They're not random. The rest, I believe, are random. And those 9 items, they're your item deck. And once you have bought all of them, you're out. Red early game, green buff and powerful creeps, blue late game, black good at killing towers, heroes, and getting gold. Yep. I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, that's some mildly magic shit, you know, that's all I'm saying. Anyway, this tower at the top, not looking super hot. There's not actually that much, I think, that is worth doing here for the Radiant, because it's just a waste of resources. You're applying pressure anyway. Now, this lane, you could think about killing the Zeus, right? If you kill the Zeus right now with an Eclipse, which I understand seems like maybe a bit much. But if you... Actually, okay. Oh, you don't have to because the enemy passed over to you. Yeah, it's going a little bit quick as a spectator right now. But, you know, you can get rid of the Zeus and deny them a spellcast. Anyway, they're just gonna have combat, alright? Neither player really felt the need to do much there. I mean, of course, the Dire couldn't, because he had nothing he could do. So I think at this stage, as the Dire, you have to just abandon the mid lane. You're not winning the mid lane anyway. Maybe, actually, wasn't there a card that does just 4 damage? So maybe you can actually get the 4 damage on the mid tower, and then you want to just try and siege down the bottom tower. By the way, can we agree to call the left lane, top lane, mid lane, and right lane, bottom lane? So, wasn't there... I think there's a dude that just does 4 damage to a tower. So you play that guy in the mid lane if you have him. That's going to kill that tower, and then you need to rush down the bottom lane. The problem is then you just die top, which doesn't really work that way. So you gotta defend top as well. It is not looking that great. This is not looking that great. But hey, we'll try. So we're gonna just put a guy in the top lane. It's good. Lets you cast a spell. Alright. The issue is just that all of these red dudes are so big. They're so buffed up now. Doesn't really work. But yeah, this is a really nice setup. So the blue guy goes on the top because blue has the kind of spells that will help you defend. The black guy goes into the mid, where just one black hero goes into the mid. So that you can use that hero to apply some pressure on the enemy tower. And then hopefully snipe out the tower that only has 4 HP. And then the black guy and the last 2 heroes go into the top lane, because the top lane is really the most important one. You win this game by sniping out the mid tower and then killing the bottom tower as well. Anyway, we've got 5 out of 10 mana still left. Well, to be honest, I don't know if the Radiant can actually kill this tower barrage. Okay, he's got 10 mana, but he needs to kill the tower. Otherwise, it just seems like a waste. Hey, Tempeg, thank you so much for the sub. Appreciate it. Alright. Choose a unit, choose a combat target for it, so you can kind of like move stuff around with it a little bit, protect yourself. But you don't really want to use that right now. Like, that's the thing. Like, I think as Dire right here, you're perfectly happy to just keep the tower alive. You don't want to do anything else. Don't use any of your resources. Just protect yourself. It's fine. As long as you don't die, you are so good. Okay. Top lane, mid lane. Mid lane, your only goal is to shoot that tower. Alright, that's the only thing you care about. Eclipse is coming out. Yeah, you used your black spell in the mid lane to play a siege cannon, which should hopefully be able to snipe out the tower for 4 damage. That's all you need. You don't need to worry about anything else. Alright. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, so far they're taking their time. I mean, he's only got 3 mana, and he could play the Disciple of Nevermore, and I guess that's true. A Sword Ladder as well. I don't actually know what that does. Yeah, there's the Steam Cannon. Alright. Wait, Steam Cannon can't be used on the tower. Oh, I didn't know that. But that's fine. This actually still kills it. Grazing Shot kills a unit in any lane. Yeah, the Dire definitely needs to just pass here. Don't play anything. Don't give him any more. Actually, no, you can't do anything. You kill this. He kill this hero. Right, this is always important. The hero's dead. So as soon as you kill the heroes in the lane, you won the lane for that turn. You can just do whatever the fuck you want. So, tower's down. Now, all the Dire has to do is do 6 damage at the top. There's Eclipse. Oh, and that's going to snipe out both of the heroes. And with that, there's nothing Dire can do. Now the question is, can Radiant do anything to do the remaining, 14 damage he needs? There's a summon. And there's a 2 and 2. Still 10 damage missing, though. Doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem like there's enough damage here. Left and right sounds lame. Why not west and east? I don't know. I like top and bottom, but we definitely need some good names for it. It's definitely a thing. Anyway, Cunning Plan comes out. Foresight. It's not too useful. I really like Cunning Plan. I think Cunning Plan is going to be a very good card. So that tower still stands. Ooh. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. What heroes are coming back? This is actually the most important question here. So I think it's going to be nobody. Wait, no, that can't be right. It's really hard to tell. Is there really nobody coming back for... Wow. Radiant lost. There's 2 lanes where you just can't cast any spells. How are you going to win this? You're not. Especially top really needed something to cast some spells. Well, you can't cast anything here. Both players can only pass. Alright. Yep, and they do. Both players just pass. We go into the mid lane. So, Dire does have some plays. Healing Self, gonna heal that unit up. And I honestly wouldn't really use any more resources here. It's just not... Is it bugging? No, what's going on here? There's a green checkmark on the heroes coming back in the top left corner during the between phase. Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Again, the interface right now I don't think is perfect by any means. Anyway, the question here is really for... I think the question is for the Dire. How do I best influence the top lane? Not bot lane. The right lane. Right? Like, this is the only place you really care about. Because this lane right here is just fine. You don't need to worry about it. You're not going to be able to kill it anyway. Right? It's not happening. That's just not that important. Problem is that the Radiant has initiative on the right lane. Okay. Well, that's a big unit right here. 10-10. Standing solo. Eclipse comes out. Yep, and that's Zeus dead. And I think that's game. Yep. There's nothing you can do. Initiative went to the Radiant. And there we go. And that's game. I'm not sure how initiative works. I'm not sure how you actually get initiative. But right there definitely made a big difference. All right. So that's pretty much it. I know this ended up being really long, but I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. Like, I really like this game. I think it looks really cool. I'm actually quite excited for it now. Just wanted to explain it a bit because I think it's a little bit confusing. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.